Good morning. Today I'm going to bring you a quick design tip about this new design trend that's going on, which is flat design. And pardon me in advance if I seem a little tired. Still getting used to waking up at 5. So I'm going to pull up Photoshop real quick, and I'll also pull up the new website mockup that I've been working on. And this whole flat design thing is kind of largely based around how many people use mobile devices and tablets and that sort of thing. And I think that Windows 8 was what started the whole thing. It started the whole wave in a certain sense. But basically, the whole premise of it is just avoiding lots of gradients and drop shadows and that sort of thing, because that was kind of the previous design trend, was making things look more real, more three-dimensional, and that sort of thing. Whereas this sort of trend is embracing the fact that we are on devices and kind of, accentuating that and making it great. So, that being said, there are a couple of palettes I've found, so like color palettes, that are great colors to use for flat design, because something I personally struggle with because I'm not naturally an awesome designer. I'm a pretty good designer. I would say that I'm a good designer, but I'm not a great designer. So something I struggle with is finding the right colors. So I'm going to give you a URL to go to. Let me open it up in a new tab. I think I bookmarked it. Yeah, cool. So if you go to flatUIcolors.com, it's a really, really helpful resource. I suggest just taking a screenshot. So when I was using these at first, I just hit Windows S and selected all of them. Windows S, by the way, only works if you use Microsoft OneNote on your computer. But take a screenshot in whatever way you want, and then you can just paste that into Photoshop and use those as your color palette. So getting back to it, I'm going to go to my new document that I created. Here we go. Pasting it in, and I'm just going to resize it to make it really small, because there's no need to have it that large. And I would like you to follow along with me if you have Photoshop. If you don't, you can go to zacurl.com/Photoshop and download a free trial of it. It's Photoshop. It's really important for modern design, or for design in general, of course, that you have Photoshop. It's my favorite web design program. And so basically there are two tips I'm going to teach you today. One, using the right colors, and two, using the right fonts. And I guess a third tip is using negative space. But we're already at the 4-minute mark. So this is going to be a multi-part series, I'm sure. So the best font for you to use for this whole flat design approach is the Lato font. And what's great about it is that it's actually part of Google's web font kit. So that means that any designs that you do in Photoshop can be easily migrated to your live website. Let me make this a bit larger so you guys can see it. And I personally, for headers, really like using their light font face. They also have Hairline, which is quite light. See, it gets a little bit hard to read sometimes. And so here's what I want you to do in following along with me today. The first thing I mentioned was fonts. For headers, you want them to be large and light. And for body text, keeping it airy. That's really this whole approach. Is lots of negative space, very airy, very fluid, and very encouraging of scrolling. So it's not so much about packing everything above the fold, because people are going to scroll on tablets and stuff. It's more about making it fun and making it so that you want to scroll, because that's really the key. So I'm going to have you just, to keep things simple, drag a few different boxes, just to give you an example. So there's one box. I'm going to make my canvas quite a bit taller so that you can see what it's like. Make it like 2000. And then I'm going to drag my second box right here. And then my third box right there. So we're now going to use our palette to color these boxes, and let's just keep them very differently colored. Let me find my first one. Okay, cool. So for the first one, let's do something kind of cool. Let's do like this light blue. and I'll make my header text be white on it. And that's another kind of aspect of this design trend, is that you often will have light colors with white text, and it's still readable, and so that's kind of cool. And usually if you're doing a kind of tablet-friendly site where it's just alternating blocks of color, it's not a bad idea to kind of alternate between a bright color and then a whitish color. So for the second box, let's bring it up a little bit. And for the second box, I'm going to make it kind of an off-white. So let's say that I make the second box be this color for the time being. And then let me bring up my third box, and let's say that I make this one be like orange or yellow or reddish. I haven't decided quite yet. And this one, in my opinion, is a little bit too dark, so I'm going to go with this EF3 blah blah blah. Okay, so we now have this kind of blank canvas, if you will, of these blocked in colors, and we're already now at the 7-minute mark. So there's not a lot more I'm going to show you today, but I'm going to show you kind of a few ideas that might get the ball rolling for you. So if I bring my header down here, let's say I make it this darker wet asphalt color, so it's a little bit easier to read here. Then I can say like key product features, and then maybe I could do like bullet points here and then have a big video here, something like that. You know, keeping stuff easy to digest. And since this is normal text, I'll bump it down to maybe like 36, something like that. So just imagine that this is my face. And then we can have our bullet points, and you know, of course, on a website we would actually have bullet points for them. So it's hard, of course, you can understand, to give you a good run through of this new trend in just a couple of minutes, especially because you probably don't know Photoshop, so you might not even be able to follow along. But the main thing I wanted to accomplish today is giving you a bit of an idea of what actually goes into making these modern flat designs. And with our next couple of seconds, I'm going to show you a few really cool examples. One of them is Wistia. These guys do like video hosting, and they have a great one where my screen is huge, by the way. I'm on like a 1600 pixel resolution, so it fully is responsive with their background image and stuff. So if I were to resize this, you see that it looks great still. And that's a lot of what all of this flat design is about working well on responsive websites. Another one is this WordPress theme that I've been messing with for a site that I'm building. If Theme Forest decides to work. Clearly the Theme Forest website is having problems, but I assure you this thing is quite cool looking. And if you could see it, you would believe me. Hey, so as it turned out, Comcast was just having internet issues. So your homework between right now, tomorrow, is to go to Google, search for flat UI examples. And this 25 best examples is a site I have pulled up. This looks great. Basically, between now and tomorrow, I want you to get an idea of what flat design is. Like, I want you to be able to see it, recognize it, and know why it is what it is. Like, know what characterizes it. So if you go through these reference sites on this list or any other list, you can always open them up and view it. I want you to just take a look at them and be able to recognize flat design when you see it. And then tomorrow you're going to come to the video with that knowledge. We're going to be able to actually play around a little bit, and I'll show you kind of how some of this stuff is created, because it is quite awesome looking and it's very sexy when you do it right. So I'll see you tomorrow.